He's the winningest head coach in the history of indoor football. 11 championships and 254 wins, and he keeps coming back for more. Sioux Falls Storm head coach Kurtiss sits down with us in the debut episode of Storm Plus right now. What's up, Storm Nation? Welcome inside the Man Cave here inside the Storm offices located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as we get you set for our first ever episode of Storm Plus. And this is going to be a lot of fun. Throughout the year, we're going to sit down with players, coaches, past players, maybe people in the front office, anybody who's involved with the Sioux Falls Storm, and get you an insider's look not only in their life, what they do on a day-to-day basis, but give you kind of that first-hand feel of what it takes to put together a Sioux Falls Storm football season here in 2023. Today, our first guest, our guinea pig in our Storm Plus podcast, will be Storm head coach Kurtiss, the winningest head coach in indoor football history. He's been a part of 11 championships here with the Sioux Falls Storm and getting geared up now for your 19th season with Sioux Falls. Let's talk about that first and foremost. Obviously, it's been a long run for you here with this organization, but you keep coming back. Seems like you have fun. You have that energy year in and year out, and it seems like you still really enjoy doing what you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long haul. I think it's actually longer than 19, but you just kind of throw a number out there and people just go with it.
Well, let's talk about the preparation getting into the 2023 season here. This has been a long process since the regular season ended in 2022, revamping the starting lineup and getting things ready to go this year roster-wise. How's that all taking shape?
Good. Yeah, it's progressing much better than I thought, especially with the XFL, USFL, CFL, NFL. I mean, there's so many leagues, and so you're worried about the players that we would be able to get. And I know in years past it was a dilemma, but we've been able to go out and get some really talented players. I'm really excited about. I think some of the energy that we're able to get and some fire on the offensive and defensive sides.
Let's talk about the defense a little bit. There was just announced recently that longtime defensive coordinator, who was here with the organization, I think 12 years, Brian Hermanson, decided to step down and retire. So obviously there's going to be some changes on the sideline. How different is that going to be for you personally with the relationship you've had with Brian over the years, not having him at practice, running the drills and things like that he brings all that energy to day in and day out, but not having him on the sideline game day too? I'm sure that's going to be an adjustment for a lot of you guys.
It will, yeah. Brian's. I mean, that's how I started coaching at Roosevelt High School. Actually, Brent DeBoer was the head coach, and Brian Hermanson was the defensive coordinator. And so, as I consider Brian a friend, a very close friend, he's very much a mentor too to me, and also has been, my defensive coordinator for many years with the Storm. And it was one where it was never really a head coach D coordinator. It was, I would do the offense, he did the defense, and then I was recognized as the head coach. But I learned so much from him as a coach, and I think he brings something that's invaluable in the coaching world that can't be duplicated by anyone else, and that's that passion and energy that he had, and that was what he couldn't get a head coaching job. It just, I marveled at how it played out for him, because he couldn't get a head coaching job, and then finally Washington opened up, and his wife actually said, "Why don't you try one more time here?" And he applied, and he got that head coaching job. And so he stepped away from the Storm to become the head coach at Washington, and really built a dynasty there, and made it to the reputation that they have now. He won all the championships, and then Chad Statham followed with all the talent that Brian left there to continue to win state championships. And then once Matt got done in college, Matt Hermanson, his son, I knew I had a chance to get him back, and he was ready to get back into coaching, and we were very lucky to have him.
It is interesting how you get guys like Brian, who has all the talent in the world, knows how to coach kids, and builds relationships with those kids too. sometimes it just takes that one opportunity and then things fall into place, and it maybe takes longer for some people. But like you said, found that opportunity with Washington, had all that success. And I think anybody who's around Sioux Falls or South Dakota high school athletics knows how dominant that organization and that school was for a long period of time because of the system he put in place.
Yeah, I mean, you look at not only the wins and losses, but how many players went on to play college football and at Division I level, Division II, and NAI, and so forth. I mean, it's just astounding. And at that time, though, when he was coaching, it was really hard to get a Sioux Falls job. I mean, you pretty much had to go out and be a head coach somewhere and then come back in. And he was just a long-time assistant, even though everyone knew he'd be a phenomenal head coach. And finally, he was given that opportunity.
I think the thing that I was most struck by when he came, or at least when I came to Sioux Falls to be part of the Storm organization, was his ability to relate to any of those players. He had a smile on his face in practice, and it just seemed like whatever the situation was, there was going to be a moment where he could create that levity and just let guys be themselves. And you need that type of person on your roster and in your coaching staff to help kind of bring out the personalities and the best in some of those athletes.
Yeah, I mean, you need the spark plug. I mean, you need someone that's going to challenge them, get after them, and then love them up. And that's one thing that I really took from him is how he was able to really challenge them in practicing games and emotionally get after them, but then in the same regard, love them up just as much, if not more, and build that rapport and relationship to where they would do anything for him.
So obviously there's that void now in the coaching staff. Are there plans as far as replacements, or what's the next step as far as getting that coaching staff ready to go?
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's plans that we feel very good about. In fact, Coach Hermanson was extremely supportive of. We think we're in a really good spot, and it'll be a very smooth transition for us, and have someone that's very capable that's going to step in and really pick up where we left off, and I think even take us to new levels. I think one of the problems that us as coaches, Coach Hermanson, myself, offensively, you kind of get stagnant, you kind of get stuck in your ways. And that's where you need some new blood sometimes to come in. And I think offensively, we're going to have some new blood that helps out on that side too.
As far as the league in general, there have been a lot of changes this year within the IFL. One thing in particular that was kind of discussed during the league meetings down in Frisco recently, the addition of the XFL partnership. It seems like that's something that's new and budding, and with all these other leagues that are starting to develop, I think the IFL did a nice job at getting themselves centerpieced into some of that action and has a chance to kind of be a driving force in, I guess, independent and pro football.
Yeah, I think at first I was a bit leery or skeptical. Like, what is the actual partnership? Are we really helping them? Is it going to be something that's just for namesake only? But I've already seen the benefits. As we were down there at league meetings, I was able to attend practices of a lot of the XFL teams, meet the staffs, develop relationships. It's already being talked about players that are going to be cut. We have a draft for these players, and they are then maybe tagged as certain teams' rights for the XFL that can then be pulled back up. You love to see anything that's starting to develop into a true partnership, because I think sometimes that word partnership is used, but it's not really followed through with, and I think this will be.
So what are the chances we see the Rock at a Storm game this year then?
Yeah, I have no idea. It'll be interesting. I pitched for a draft just because, the home base for the XFL is in Dallas.
Sure.
And so Frisco would have such an advantage to be able to get pretty much all the players cut and say, hey, stay here close to the home base of the XFL, and then they'll pull you right back in. So I think many of the Midwest and far outreaching teams were saying, let's get a draft and figure out an order and try to get some of these players playing.
Other things that were discussed at the league's meetings were rule changes. And I think while there aren't any major rule changes this year, there are some that will impact scoring, things like that. The deuce rule has been kind of reformatted and changed a little bit.
Yeah, we tweaked just some verbiage of some of the rules, and then some time management things to try to hopefully speed the game up a little bit. But those were all things fans wouldn't really notice. But the deuce rule is something they would. And where it's different this year is before you can only do it the last minute of the first half, last minute of the game. Now you can do it anytime. And then also if you attempt a deuce or you go to kick and it goes out of the back end, but it ricochets off the goalpost and goes back into fair play, it's a live ball. And so that will be really chaotic. That's one where even if you're attempting a deuce, your guys are going to be flying down the field, and you're going to see chaos if that ball goes off the uprights.
Seems like something that will electrify the audiences, get the fans more involved, excited for those big moments.
Well, I think what's going to happen is the fans are going to be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
But then once they see it once, and hopefully you see it more than once in a season, because that first time it is going to be like, what's going on? I'm not sure about this. And then when they hear about it, they'll be like, wow, I wish I would have known that. And then that moving forward, I think they'll always be rooting for that.
How involved are the coaches, front office people in making those rule change decisions? Is that purely where the officials ask for some input, the commissioner asks for some input, or are there panels of people that get involved in that sort of thing?
Yeah, so our commissioner and our head of officials does a great job with trying to constantly formulate and rejuvenate, you could say, the game. Let's try to get the rules and things out there that the fans are just confused by and slow the game down. And so we have a committee of head of officials. There's 4 coaches on it that look to tweak the rules with the commissioner and the head of officials, and then it has to be presented to the owners. The owners then vote on it, and they have the ultimate say. They decide it.
You've been involved in IFL football, indoor league football, for a long time now, and rules come and go, things change. How different is the game maybe from when you got involved to the way it's played now today?
I think it's safer. I think it's safer in the regards, except for this upright rule on the deuce. This is kind of scary for me, but I think the league has done a better job. It used to be at one point you could get an offensive lineman even and put them in full speed motion and crack on a defensive end that's just stationary, not even see it coming. Things like that were dangerous, and I think it was looking for excitement, big hits, and it was the phase that we were in, and thankfully we got out of that quickly. And now we're trying to make it a more polished product that's on the field that the fans can comprehend, but it's also still very fast-paced, and you still want it a little more offensive-oriented.
Kind of transitioning to another subject here with the Sioux Falls Storm. Obviously, our ownership group, it's 2 sisters, their husbands who are involved in the front office. It's very much a family atmosphere on a day-to-day basis here in the office. You see that family atmosphere within the Storm organization as well, whether it be, former players having their kids join the Lightning Girls cheerleading squad, or your kids, for example, Peyton and Afton, getting a chance to be a part of the organization in some way, being on the sideline with you on Saturdays, Sundays when the Storm are playing. It's pretty special that family feel hasn't left the organization after all these years. And I'm sure for you as a dad and a coach, to have your kids being involved and being interested in what you do professionally, it's got to be gratifying.
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal to have both of them. Before Peyton went off to University of Washington, he was helping with the offense last year, and then Afton was helping the Sanford athletic training staff with trying to collect hours for her degree at Missouri State, and so it was awesome. Coach Fields, his daughter's Lightning Girl. I mean, you can just go on and on here of the tie-in, and I think a lot of that's attributed because we've had this family-oriented atmosphere for so long. I mean, even back when the Kurtiss family owned the team, it was something that was always looked at as, walkthroughs. The players would bring their families to the walkthrough, and then we had a family meal that was kind of developed into a tradition.
I think the coolest thing is getting a chance when you come into the Storm office. There's this hallway that has pictures from years and years that have gone on throughout the Storm organization. A lot of success, a lot of championships. You see your kids in there, though. You see them kind of grow up as they work their way through life and sitting in your lap with big smiles on their face after raising a trophy, or you walking down the field with Peyton. I'm sure those are some fond memories that you've had from when they were younger, and it's great to see what they're doing moving forward now, too.
Oh, without a doubt. And now seeing, Peyton tied in with the organization and coaching, the passion is just as strong now as it was when he was a fan just rooting for the team and idolized the players. I mean, just thought they were, better than Patrick Mahomes or anyone, Aaron Donald. I think you would see these Storm football cards, and my kids wanted to get autographs just as much as any other Storm fan, and that's what we always want to bring back. And I think everyone's still battling with, after COVID, trying to redevelop an identity, and that's what we'd love to have again.
So I think one of the unique things is we look through the list of names and players, coaches, guys that have come through the organization over the years. USF, University of Sioux Falls, is a school that continues to pop up. A lot of guys have had success within this organization, you yourself included. That university got some sad news with the passing of Bob Young. Of course, the football field has got his name on it. One of the winningest coaches in program history. He left a namesake there that people still talk about today. The way his reputation rings within those hallways, I think, is legendary for the University of Sioux Falls. What relationship, if any, did you have with him? How much did he impact you becoming a coach? And what do you take away from some of his philosophies and ideals as a coach and as a human?
That's a tough one, emotional one. He was a father figure for all of his players. We just had the viewing this last weekend, and it was a reunion of sorts, but it was one that you knew that would happen at some point, but it was definitely not something you look forward to. It was good to see his family. They've gone through some difficult challenges. Diane passed away. His son-in-law, Chad Garrow, who was an extremely good coach, Brandon Valley's coach, he passed away. And to see A.J. Garrow, Chad's son and Coach Young's grandson, now getting into the coaching realm. He works at my academy, and he's looking to become a high school coach. But all of that and all the people that you saw were there because of Coach Young. And his hiring of Kalen DeBoer is what got Kalen into the college coaching realm. Chuck Morrell. You could go on and on of, the tree that branches off from people that had a relationship or tie-in with Coach Young. And it's a huge loss, but it's a loss that will always forever impact people that knew him. I mean, it's not someone you just forget and move on. You carry that memory with you forever.
You talked about Kalen DeBoer. He's a good friend of yours, obviously, and somebody who has grown tremendously as a coach here over the last 10 years or so. He's not the only one, though, and it seems like you mentioned it. There are a lot of guys who've had opportunities because of their relationship with Coach Young. That's rare. I mean, you get guys that spawn out a nice tree of coaches throughout their career, but to have guys that have reached heights that they have under Coach Young's tree of success, I think that says a lot about him.
Well, and I think not just the coaching aspect, the success aspect. As you saw, many of my teammates and other players that played for Coach Young, and how presentable they were, how sharp, how successful they're all doing. But one funny thing, though, you talked about, Kalen is the one that talked me into play for the Storm. I came back from Europe and was not going to play, and it was the Cobras that first year. And he just, we're roommates, and he kept saying how much fun it was, and you got to come out, you got to do this. And then about 3 games into the season, I finally gave in and came out and played, and then I've been a part of it ever since. But he was the one that talked me into joining this organization.
And that's a friendship that you've had now for basically your entire adult life, and getting to see him just on a friendship level, having the success he's had at the University of Washington and everything that they've done out there so far, it's got to be pretty special for you too.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he's my best friend, and he's earned every bit of what he's done. Though people think, I'll have people call me. This is honest God truth, JJ. People will call me and, hey, I'd like to start coaching. And I think, my plan is to kind of get my feet wet and then start to look to move up. And then eventually, I'd like to be doing what Kalen's doing. And I thought, well, wow, there's a concept. That's an idea. Yeah. He's had some luck involved, but he is a very, very good coach. And he's gone to many programs and had success instantly. And that's not because of luck. He's put a lot of hard work into it, and he's done a fantastic job. And really right now what he works so hard at is trying to maintain and keep his staff, because he's doing so well. Everyone wants a piece of that, and they're trying to take his coaches.
I think the one thing for me, I'm a big baseball fan. I grew up a baseball fan. I've heard stories and legends about what he did on the baseball field.
Yeah.
How impressive was he?
Yeah, well, to give you some idea, we USF, we used to play our games at Nelson Park. And he would hit the ball into the intersection at Cliff and what is that, 10th or 12th?
Yep.
He would hit it right into the middle of not rolling up there. I mean, he would hit it that far. And we played amateur ball at Renner, where it was just a hitter's park, and he hit many out into the fields. But it was always crazy how when he went and played in the one bat league, how when he came back, he's like, man, I hit a ball as hard as I've ever hit it today. And I was, how far did you hit it? And he goes, I blooped it right over the second baseman's head. He just said it was tough to adapt to playing with a wood bat, and it wasn't the norm as it is now. Back then, we were swinging aluminum bats, and he could just crush a baseball though.
It's interesting to hear those stories, those kind of Bo Jackson legendary type stories of guys that do things that you can't really believe unless you actually see it. But it seems like he's done a lot of those amazing things over his life and career. Yeah,
I mean, he was a gifted basketball player too. We played basketball at USF also, and he was very good. And it maybe is lucky that he did break his collarbone his freshman year. Because he might have just thought about, I think I'm just going to play basketball. And he had to sit out, and then it got him right back into football season again when he got healthy, and that's probably a good thing.
Kind of transitioning again, sticking with USF though a little bit, you've held a lot of different hats over the course of your career, whether it be a coach, a youth academy director, running, some of the things behind the scenes. You've also been an educator at the University of Sioux Falls. Talk about that aspect, how you got involved in being a teacher, and I'm sure you still enjoy it. You do it on a regular basis. It seems like something you're very passionate about.
Well, it wasn't planned. In fact, my goal was to get out of education. I was teaching at Roosevelt. I'd been there, I think, 19 years. And what ended up happening was I kept teaching while I coached the Storm, because with minor league football, you never knew if tomorrow was going to be there. Yep. And I saw so many other teams, even though I always felt good about our community, our ownership, I saw other teams just all of a sudden the doors are closed. And I didn't want to get caught in that. And so I kept teaching. What happened was I started the football academy, partnered with Sanford, and it blew up quickly. And the facility and the program, it was something that people were calling for, and it went well. So I had to step away from teaching at that point. I had to make a choice, and it was to step away from teaching. And then when I did that, USF reached out and went, how would you like to maybe do an online class? How would you like to maybe do a class in person? And then it kind of grew, and it works well with my schedule. It still gives me a chance to close the door and teach and work with the young people and try to mold minds. I feel like many days though I learn more than they do, but it's fun. It's a good experience.
I think one thing that maybe people don't know about you is in your younger days you had an opportunity to work as an actor too. Getting involved in a fairly large project with some big name actors. Can you give us a little bit of a story on that background and maybe one on-set story as well?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you there was zero acting in my and I was one of the stunt doubles for Dennis Quaid in Any Given Sunday, and it was really a weird happening of how it all played out. But long story short, I went down and tried out. They flew me down, and they had about 40 6'1", 185-pound left-handed quarterbacks. I mean, it was unbelievable. And they fined them. And then we had to try out, and they kept myself and another guy named Ralph Barone, who ended up being the head stunt for Dennis Quaid. But we would practice, go through plays, and We got to meet all the stars. I mean, practice with them, get to know them. We went out to dinner with Dennis Quaid, and it was a unique experience, and it's probably the most stress I've ever felt in my life because, when you have the stunt coordinator, you make an errant throw. In practice, you make an errant throw, you run it again, you get it right. Well, here you have a stunt coordinator screaming at you that you just cost them $60,000 because now we got to film it again because I got an inept quarterback that can't complete a pass. And that was tough. That was pressure that I had not felt. And then we also had to try out acting, and that's where I was pitiful, and I grew such a profound respect for people in the world of theater, and to just be able to turn it on and be able to do that, it was something that I had zero calling for. And when they talked about, if you did well here, you could get your actors, your card, and I thought that's something I want nothing to do with because I had zero ability in that area.
It seems like something that everybody wants to do, but maybe it's not. So grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, I couldn't. And I, they put four of us, four the stunt doubles. It was all these football players. They put us in a room and they said, "All right, you have 3 minutes to come up with a skit. We're going to be filming this, and this is to see if you're going to be anything more than an extra or a stunt double." And so it was one guy took the lead and he started going, and the rest of you just kind of jumped in. And I was clueless. I had no idea, and I can definitely say I got an F+ on that one.
Hey, your name is still associated with that. Are you in the credits?
No,
okay.
Not in the credits. But just one story. In the movie, Dennis Quaid, he was terrible at football. He was supposed to have 40 football scenes, and Oliver Stone came in, and the stunt coordinator saw Quaid throw it, and they wanted to get rid of him. And Stone said, "No way, I love him. He's gritty, he's tough, and this is who we'll have." So they cut him down to 5 football scenes. So in the movie, he gets hurt right away.
Yep.
Well, that scene where he gets hurt right away, the defensive end, the guy's name is Basil Proctor. And I just thought, what a name for a guy that's going to be hitting me in the back. And one day, our stunt coordinator said, "All right, we're going to practice this full go." And so the other double and I didn't really know what to expect. Well, you go to throw the pass, and then you get hit by a guy square in the middle of your back, full speed. And you think, "Whew, that kind of hurt." And then the stunt coordinator says, "Again." And now you're expecting it, waiting for it. And if you tense up and freeze, then you got to do it again. Yeah. And we practiced it 26 times that day.
Oh my gosh.
And when they filmed it, actually, it took more than that to get it right. And so, when you would take those big hits, they'd give you a little bonus, a little bump, but it was difficult. And all these guys, a lot of them had just come from The Water Boy, and then a lot of them had worked on Remember the Titans and other football movies.
So I'm sure you're still cashing on those residual checks, right?
Yeah. No. But I did get to spend 2 months in Miami. I lived down there, and it was nice because it was during the South Dakota winter that I was down there. Yeah.
Well, we don't get to enjoy the summertime here for a few more months. It's still the ice cold early days of February here, but we are getting excited about Sioux Falls Storm football. We are now, I think, 55-ish days away from the kickoff. April 1st is coming right around the corner. Anything you want to say to the fans, get excited about before the start of the season heading into 2023?
I did get asked about losing a back like Nate Chavius. Nate signed a 2-year deal in the CFL. We have some really, really good running backs coming in. And I think we maybe have the most athletic group offensively that I think we've had in quite some time. But I think where we've really made strides is defensively. And I think that's what fans will appreciate, a new identity, a new look, and kind of a new flavor defensively.
Can't wait to see the show here in 2023. Kurtiss Riggs, head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm. So great for you to join us here today on our first episode of Storm Plus. Thanks for making your time.
All right. Thanks, JJ.
That's Kurtiss Riggs. Again, we have our season tickets renewal available right now. You can visit our website at SiouxFallsStorm.com. Call the ticket office. Get your season tickets renewed. Your single game tickets go on sale March 1st. So be sure to look on our social media pages at Sioux Falls Storm for anything related to those single game and season tickets here in the next few weeks. April 1st will be a road game, but the first home game, April 9th, it's a Sunday at 5 p.m. 5:05 will be the kickoff. We will be inside the Denny Sanford Premier Center against the Iowa Barnstormers, and more information regarding some special events coming up in that game here in the near future as well. I'm JJ Hartigan. He's Kurtiss Riggs. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Storm Plus. We'll have much more of these coming your way throughout the offseason and heading into the start of the 2023 season. For now, we say so long from the Storm Man Cave. We'll see you next time.